Finally, Disney officially dropped the teaser for Avengers Doomsday. Now, let's slow down, grab every little detail, and put all the puzzle pieces together before Marvel inevitably changes half of this again in reshoots. We open with Steve riding his motorcycle down what is very clearly a road heading toward the countryside. This is not downtown, this is not suburbia. He passes a windmill, the area is wide open, lots of empty land. It genuinely looks like he's either heading to a farm or coming back from one. Very deliberate. Then the trailer cuts to Peggy Carter's house, the same one we saw at the very end of Endgame. But here's where things get interesting. That house back in Endgame was not a farmhouse. It was in the suburbs, most likely somewhere around New York, or at least in a city-adjacent area. It was never presented as a rural home. No wide fields, no endless greenery, just a nice, quiet suburban life. Now compare that to what we're seeing here. Lush grass, big trees, everything bright green like it's either spring or summer. Then, moments later, the atmosphere shifts. Late afternoon lighting, leaves scattered on the ground, autumn vibes. That alone suggests months have passed since the Endgame scene. Time has clearly moved forward. But let's rewind for a second to that earlier shot of Steve on the motorcycle. Why does this matter so much? Because behind-the-scenes photos, some of which I showed here on the channel yesterday, strongly indicated that Steve and Peggy were living on a farm in a completely different house and already had kids. So when the teaser briefly shows Peggy's Endgame house again, that's likely not their current home. That shot is probably there for emotional continuity, not geographical accuracy. Marvel doing emotional manipulation? Shocking, I know. In fact, when Steve arrives on the bike and we see the surroundings behind him, it looks unmistakably like farmland. He even stops the bike on dirt, not pavement. So yes, the trailer kinda tricks us. The house he's actually living in does not seem to be the same house from Endgame. There is a brief shot of him arriving there, sure, but it doesn't look like he's staying long. More like a visit, a memory, or a symbolic stop. Quick pause for a message. Please subscribe. I'm a small channel and I need your support to keep bringing these amazing news for you. Thank you very much. Back to the breakdown. When Steve takes off his helmet and rests it on the handlebars, we see the brand of the motorcycle, Triumph. And honestly, that name is perfect. Steve Rogers was triumphant. He survived everything. He won the war. He saved reality. And now he's finally living the life he earned. If Marvel chose that bike by accident, I'd be shocked. Another important detail, the wedding ring on his hand. That alone confirms a significant time jump. Steve and Peggy are married. This isn't just settled down last week energy, this is years after Endgame. The helmet itself is also worth noting. Its design strongly resembles the style of helmet Steve used back in World War II, which makes sense, he rode motorcycles back then too. Now, technically, a super soldier doesn't need a helmet. His reflexes and durability are absurd. So if Steve is wearing one, it's either for style, caution, or because he expects situations where even his abilities might not be enough. And no, before anyone asks, he's not bulletproof like Luke Cage. This is still very much Steve Rogers' durability. This also hints that Steve wasn't just playing house in the past. He didn't go back in time just to be a stay-at-home dad. That would be wildly out of character. Steve Rogers is incapable of seeing people suffer and doing nothing. We've seen this repeatedly, especially during Civil War, when he literally says as much to Tony. If there was injustice, danger, or people in need, he would intervene. Always. There's a scene where we see him placing his uniform into a chest. That could mean retirement, true retirement. But it could also mean something else, that he stepped away from the Captain America identity specifically. If he continued acting, he may have done so under a different identity, like Nomad. In the comics, when Steve isn't Captain America, he often operates as Nomad. Even in Infinity War, he effectively functioned that way. And just to be clear, we already know he's not returning as Captain America. He's coming back as Steve Rogers, possibly an active hero, just not that hero. Then we see him holding a baby, and once again, look out the window. This is not a suburban skyline. This is countryside, fields, open land. This confirms it. He's living on a farm, almost certainly with Peggy Carter. It's worth remembering that the Winter Soldier confirmed Peggy had children in the main MCU timeline, but not with Steve. This child is different. This is Steve's child in a parallel timeline, because the main MCU is not the timeline Steve went back to live in. When he traveled back at the end of Endgame, he created a branching timeline. The Ancient One explained this very clearly to Bruce Banner. Remove or alter key elements and you create a parallel flow of time. And it's not limited to Infinity Stones. The directors themselves confirmed this logic applies broadly. In the comics, Steve Rogers has had multiple children across different universes, and many of them eventually became vigilantes. Will that happen here? No idea. But it's very possible that this child's role mirrors Morgan Stark's role in Endgame. Not a future hero, but a powerful narrative motivation. Peggy Carter herself doesn't appear in this teaser, but it's already been reported by reliable sources that she will appear in both Avengers films. Still, the movie is a year away. Reshoots happen, plans change, Marvel adjusts things constantly. Then we reach the final image, the Avengers logo, the countdown clock. And this visual matters a lot. We already knew the logo would be green, Dr. Doom's color. Doomsday obviously references Judgment Day, the end of all things, but it also clearly evokes the Doomsday Clock, a real-world symbol maintained by scientists. The closer it gets to midnight, the closer humanity is to nuclear apocalypse. That symbol was especially prominent during the Cold War, when mutual assured destruction felt very real. In the context of this film, it makes perfect sense. The countdown is ticking towards zero, midnight, the end. Not just of one world, but of the multiverse itself. This isn't just about Dr. Doom arriving, it's about everything collapsing at once. The structure behind the clock also visually echoes the Sanctum Sanctorum and Marvel's magical iconography, especially with the green tones reminiscent of the Time Stone. Officially, the Time Stone no longer exists in the main MCU, but Marvel clearly wants to preserve that visual language. Just like the Eye of Agamotto was a blend of magic and technology, this clock may be the same, possibly even created by Dr. Doom himself, a structure designed not just to control time, but to contain the end of time. Doom doesn't deal exclusively in science or magic, he masters both. That's why he's such a massive threat. This isn't just a Kang replacement, this is an upgrade, more powerful, more charismatic, more dangerous. But what do you think? Comment Avengers Dr. Doom down below so I know you made it all the way to the end. More videos are showing up on screen right now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.